Good morning and welcome to our 277th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit. You can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, personal questions, etc. My goal is to help you take your career to the next level. Now, please keep typing your questions. I thought before we get started today, I'd show you a little bit behind the scenes here. So this is my office. This is my B camera. This here is my A camera. The reason I have this B camera here is in case I make a mistake, then what I can do is just re-record or say the last line again and cut over to this camera angle here. Doesn't work when you're doing it live though, right? And I'll show you behind the scenes here. So I've got a couple of doors, windows here, etc. I'm a nerd, so I bought this for $50 on Amazon the other day. It opens the curtains automatically. Now, of course, I could just walk over here and open the curtains myself and the door, etc. But over there, I've got a massive window. And the reason I have this here also is because there's a couple ways that I personally fight depression. We all have a bit of depression, right? Maybe me a little bit more so than others. So one way is you need vitamin D. Okay, and it's not enough just to have lights on in your office. You actually need vitamin D. All right, so let me shut these here so the lighting doesn't get messed up. Another way that I fight depression is I get about 30,000 steps a day on my treadmill here. I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, so I've got one of these stand-up desks here. It's like 8 feet wide. And underneath it, I've got a treadmill. And the treadmill is about $220. It's totally worth it. It's cheap because there's no side rails. So what I do is I walk at about 6 miles an hour all day long. And a lot of people ask me, well, how can you type? Well, it's not that hard because what I do is I raise the table up. And then if you raise it up, it's easier to type. Now, if I'm working with graphics or video editing and I have to do something that requires me not to move, I'll stand on the sides here and I'll just kind of move my image around, do my video editing, and then continue walking after that. Yeah. So it works out great. And I recommend everybody buy one of these things. And I'm going to show you exactly where to get it. And I promise you get way more work done this way. And the way that I came up with this was when I was younger. I remember the first hour every day when I was studying, I got a lot of work done. Then if I tried to cram at night, it was a disaster. In fact, 10 hours of work at night for me, or studying even, wasn't as productive as the first hour. Now, if you walk all day long, and I even do it during meetings as well at a slower pace, but if you walk all day long, it feels like you just woke up. So you're 10 times more productive every hour. So you work 12 hours a day, that's 120 hours. And I know that's an exaggeration. I'm trying to make a point here. Let me show you where to get this. And I don't have any affiliate program at all. I will never let anybody ever sponsor any of my videos. I'm just true and pure to you, my students. Let me go here to my Amazon cart. And I'm going to show you right here. All right, so let me do a search here on treadmill. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee as well. It's totally worth it. So here it is right here. It's $220. It's worth every penny. You can actually put it underneath your couch if you want to put it out of the way as well. It's unbelievable. Yeah, and you can get one of these stand-up desks cheap on Amazon as well. The one I have is a bit more pricey only because it's really, really wide. So I humbly recommend this. Another biohack that I use is I drink a lot of water. And so I carry this around with me all day long. And I got this from Amazon as well. And on the side, I've got the times. So right now, I'm at 9 a.m., so I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. This works really well. What I also do is I have an Oura ring right here. I think that's how you pronounce it. Let me show you up close here. And so this here will track my sleep. It'll track everything. And the great thing about this is it tracks deep sleep. And this is crucial because if you don't get enough deep sleep, then your brain doesn't repair itself at night and your muscles don't grow either if you're working out. And the way to measure deep sleep is to use a device like this. I'm sure there's other products you can use to measure deep sleep as well. And I went to Stanford University for a sleep study as well to improve my sleep. And one of the things that we discovered was I was using my iPhone at night, and this emits a lot of blue light. And this is a scientific fact. This is true. And when you look at something that gives off blue light at night, it destroys your deep sleep, which I measure very closely. Now, the way that I get rid of blue light is there's glasses that I use, and I'll show you them right here. And they're really, really cheap, and I really recommend you guys get these things. And my kids have them as well. So let me go here to glasses. Right here. Here we go. Right here. Yeah. So these are blue light glasses right here. I think they're like $15 for a pair of two. They're $13. They're totally worth it. And you don't realize you have them on. They're just clear, but they block blue light. Okay. And again, this is scientifically proven that if you block blue light, you will get better sleep. I promise you. And you'll feel refreshed in the morning as well. One more quick biohack before I take your questions here. What I also do is every single Sunday, I buy a ton of groceries. And I'll show you exactly which groceries I buy. But what I do is I make 7 of these things. And this lasts me for the entire week. And what's in these things is every antioxidant you can possibly think of. And you got to fill it all the way to the top after you juice. Otherwise, it can go bad. But it lasts for a week at least. And so what's in here is a ton of kale. And people don't realize this, but kale has more protein pound for pound than chicken does even. In addition to kale, I have raw ginger root. I also have cinnamon. I put lemons in as well. Don't use oranges. They're high in calories. You need the vitamin C though. And I also put in whey protein, mushroom extract, acai, and purple potato extract as well. The reason why I purple potato extract is because in Okinawa, people live well into their hundreds on a couple of islands there in the South Japan. And what they do is they consume purple potatoes. I know it sounds out there. And I'm sure some of the stuff in here is a placebo, but hey, it works for me. So let me show you what I put in this drink every single week. So let me go back here, go back to all orders. Here we go. Here it is here. Okay, good. So what I do is I order from a whole paycheck here. And so I put garlic in. I know it sounds strange, but it stops you from getting sick. Lemons, as I mentioned, kale, strawberries, blueberries, of course, and then celery, and a couple more items as well. And the other items here that I don't put in, I make for my salad every night. My salad every night includes avocado, apple cider vinegar, eggs, and tofu as well. Yeah. So anyway, this is my methodology. It works for me. Do it works for you. I also take multivitamins, and we're all deficient in a handful of vitamins, and we don't know exactly what they are. But if we blast our bodies with 100% of the daily recommended amount you're supposed to have, then the likelihood you get sick goes down a lot. I also got my DNA sequenced many years ago. And it said with a high degree of probability that I'm going to get something called AMD, which is age-related macular degeneration, which means my eyesight will go down in my 60s, which happened to my grandfather. And my 60s is only 8 years away. I'm 52 right now. So if you take certain vitamins, and my doctor tested my eyes, he said it's fine, but he has me take this organic zinc product I order over Amazon. Don't take my word for gospel and stuff. Please do your own homework on this first, please. Okay. And if you guys have more questions about the backdrop, etc., let me know. Now, one more thing I want to mention is our eyes have no idea what the correct lighting is. We just don't know. So what I recommend doing is using a waveform, okay? Especially if you're using 2 different cameras. And what you want to do here, it's tough to see, is get a white piece of paper, or you can use something like this if you want, a white piece of paper, and right over my face here, see right here, this Ghostbuster thing, it has to be at 80. And that way you can match both cameras. And again, our eyes can't really tell the difference, but it's got to be right at 80 as well. And if you guys have additional questions about my setup, behind the scenes, etc., please let me know. I had a great student named Evelyn from Minnesota, and she once said, having a great Zoom setup, pardon me, will do the same thing for your career as what a great Italian suit will do. And I'm wearing, this is a Xenia here, but I've got $15 cargo pants on down here with lots of pockets on the sides. Okay. Let me get to your questions. All right. First up, Shahar. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Paul, good to see you too. Paul wrote, good morning, Chris. I don't make it here too often for weekly office hours, but always find it interesting and helpful when I do. Thank you, Paul from Ontario. Lots of love to you. I'm a fellow 905er. I grew up in Mississauga, but I was born in London, Ontario. Leah, how are you? From South Africa. Strictic, good to see you from Lisbon. Hamza, how are you? You wrote MBA or finance degree. What do you recommend? Yeah. When it comes to any degree, what I want you to do is ask yourself, why do you need it before figuring out how to get it? And the why is usually because it's going to help you get to your next step in your career. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to LinkedIn and find people that are living your perfect life in the perfect career. They're usually older than you. And find out if they have any degrees to get there. Now, I haven't really come across many people at all that have finance degrees on Wall Street. I worked on Wall Street at Goldman, then I moved out to the West Coast here, a big hedge fund called Citadel, moved my family out here in the venture, and then I worked in the venture capital industry. And during all that time, I don't think I've seen many people with a finance degree. I've seen CFA though. So if you want, get a CFA. It stands for Certified Financial Analyst designation. It's a 3-year program where you write 3 exams, one at night each year for 3 years. I can tell you exactly how to study for it. I've done it as well if you want to. That's much better than a finance degree, and I think even better than an MBA. Now, before considering getting an MBA or a graduate degree, what I want you all to do is I want you to set up 100 networking meetings. You leverage LinkedIn doing this. And if you still can't get the job of your dreams after 100 informational meetings, then consider going back to school for an MBA or whatever degree you want to get. And it might seem like a lot to you to do 100 meetings, but I want you to think of each meeting as saving you $1,000 because an MBA degree from a traditional school costs you 100 grand. So how do you set up these networking meetings? Well, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but if you want, you can download this book right here, which is called Networking to Get, what's it called again? Customers, a job, or anything you want. And you can get it directly from my website for free. So go to harounmba.com, scroll to the bottom, and you can download this book for free right here. All right, let me get to the next question here. All right, let me get a little bit of coffee here. Okay. All right, next up, Star198 wrote, if I start an incubator hedge fund to build a 2-year track record, what is the minimum dollar amount I should put in it in order to lock in credible future investors? Yeah. It's really, really hard. It's hard. I would say at least 7 figures. So at least $1 million if you can. And if you're going to start $1 million fund, you're probably going to be investing in early stage investments, meaning pre-series A, meaning seed investments. And don't put more than 5 or 10% of your capital in any one particular investment. What you might want to do actually, just to get started, is instead of setting up a venture capital fund, you can set up what's called a special purpose vehicle. Now, a venture capital fund, you charge a 2% annual fee and a 20% incentive fee. And I can go into more detail on that if you want me to. With a special purpose vehicle, also called SPV, what you do is you charge 1 in 10, meaning a 1% management fee and 10% incentive. And the reason the fees are lower is because it's kind of a one stock or one investment portfolio with no risk management. But it might be easier for you to sell yourself to get people to invest in one company initially, which you'll put in that SPV. Yeah. And be patient too, because I have a ton of friends that work in venture capital at the biggest VC firms in the world. And it's been 10 years that they've been there and they haven't gotten a bonus check yet. Right? So it's feast or famine. And the cycles are ridiculously long. And I don't recommend anybody go into venture capital unless you've started at least one company, and do it later in life as well. Liquidity will get you. Okay. All right, next up, James wrote, bon après-midi, bonjour, je vais faire la grasse matinée. Yeah. I think that means I want to sleep in French. Yeah. After I have my petit déjeuner, which is a small lunch. Okay. All right, next up, Hisham, how are you? Hisham was one of my students when I taught during the evenings at university here in the Bay Area. Hisham worked at Amazon, great guy. And he was at our graduation event, the Haroun MBA graduation event last summer. Good to see you. So Hisham wrote, Chris, been a while. Hope you and the family are doing well. I recently heard from an MBA alum that you're building another school. Can you please share details and let us know how we can help? Thank you so much, and God bless you. Yeah. So we finished our first school last year, and I'm going to tell you about the details on 2 more schools we're building right now. So the first school that we built, and this is why I do what I do. I use the profits from what I do to build schools and stuff. So the first school we built in Rwanda, per these images here. That's my son, Matthew. And then we have solar on the roof. It was incredible. And of course, Vital was my student, so he headed this up, and I donated the money for it. Our next school is going to be actually in Kenya. It's going to be a 6-hour drive from the Nairobi airport. And I'm building the school with Marin Koros, who's one of my incredible MBA students. She graduated from my program a couple of years ago, as did Vital. And it's going to be in honor of her mother. It's going to be called the Leah Koros Memorial School for Girls. There's another school I'm building right now as well, which is going to be in the West Bank. And I've got approval there as well. And I will be starting soon on that. Now, I'm going to be in October. I'm actually going to be in Kenya, and I might be in the West Bank in late August as well. If I'm there, of course, I'll do videos there. I'll do the weekly call maybe from there as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then you wrote, can you share details? Let me know how you can help. You just from the tuition you already paid, please. You've already donated. Thank you. God bless. Okay. Next up, Andreas wrote, a nice layout. Oh, well, thank you. It's cool. Dude, I've made every mistake there is when it comes to doing these live streams. As you know, I still make mistakes now, and recording videos online. If anybody wants to start teaching online or do these weekly webcasts, I'm more than happy to tell you exactly how I do it in terms of the hardware, software, methodology, etc. Okay. All right. And then Hisham wrote, also, as graduates of the MBA program, can we still book one-on-one calls with you? Yeah. Best thing to do is let's discuss this in office hours today. So my silver, gold, and platinum MBA students join me at office hours starting at 10 a.m. You have the Zoom address. We can chat about it there. Thank you. Okay. And if anybody is curious about the MBA program, just go to my website, which is harounmba.com. And then just click up here on MBA FAQs, and you can learn all about the programs I have here, including the Diamond Growth Accelerator. Yeah. And book a call with me as well. Underneath me in the bottom right-hand corner here, there's a blue button. You can click it, set up a call with me. If you guys are not students, you want to talk about joining, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, next question from Hamza wrote, what do you think about Broadcom, sorry, and its future? Its stock went up significantly yesterday. Well, it's a chip-based company. People think it's loosely tied to AI longer term as well. I called it Fraudcom as a joke because when I worked in the hedge fund industry, we were short for accounting related issues. Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on the company. I'm sure it's a great firm though. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor from India. You wrote, it's a beautiful day as always. How is your goalpost oot going? That's how we say in Canada, pushing the goalpost oot. It's going great. It's going great. I'm building more schools. And whenever I take on a challenge, and this is going to sound a little bit out there, but I'll explain who I am. Whenever I take on a challenge, I always feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff. And I throw a bunch of airplane parts off the cliff. And I jump off the cliff and I have to assemble it before I land. So anyway, it's just a little bit about who I am. I love to challenge myself, push the goalposts out, always looking for continuous improvement. And I love to vocalize my goals as well. And I recommend everybody else do this too, because if you vocalize your goals, then it'll put pressure on you. And I say with love of my heart to get it done faster. So for example, when I wrote my first book, when I was writing it, I told my family and friends about it. And every time I saw them, they'd ask me, how's the book going? How's the book going? Right? So I vocalized my goals for those 2 other schools I'm building right now. How am I going to pull it off? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And yes, I'm a nerd here. Yeah. All right, next up, ESW wrote, hey, Chris, hey. I want to ask what you think about the FIRE movement and trying to retire early in general. Yeah. I don't believe in early retirement. I think anybody that says they want to retire early is somebody that hasn't found their passion yet in life. And my humble goal is to help you find your passion. And think of me like I'm a waiter. And when you go to a restaurant, this is where I proposed to my wife. She said yes. When you go to a restaurant, you look at the whole menu. You only choose 2 items. So think of that with respect to me and careers with you. I'm here to humbly serve you. I'm your waiter. I want to expose you to all types of careers so you can find your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être, etc. Yeah. So I don't believe in early retirements. And I get worried when family members talk about retiring early. If they don't keep busy, then they're not around very long. Read between the lines there. Yeah. You got to have a purpose, a passion, a reason for existing. And as Confucius said, find an occupation you enjoy and you'll never work again a day in your life. Now, I do believe in starting side hustles, though, and starting your own company so you can live your life in your own terms and not take crap from other people that you work for. That's right. And if I can help you start your business or side hustle, please let me know. I'm here to humbly help you. I have lots of courses that can help you with that as well. Yeah. And if you feel frustrated at work, and a lot of my students do, and I certainly did when I worked for other people, then I say good. And I say that with love in my heart. I say it with love in my heart because frustration can really push you to reinvent yourself or start that side hustle. You know, I look back and I worked at Accenture years ago, and there was an associate partner who I'll never name, as tempted as I am to name him, but I won't. But I remember one night, it was 10 p.m., I was working late, and I couldn't get this database to work. And I told him, I said, I'm so sorry, I tried my best, I can't figure it out. And he looked at me and he said, it's because you're incompetent. Then he turned and he walked away. And I was like, WTF? That stands for why the face. My mommy's watching. But I'm grateful to that guy in hindsight for doing that because it forced me to always think about starting my own company so I wouldn't have to give up my dignity working for somebody else. Now, starting a company is not for everybody, but if you want to do it, please write a thorough business plan first because failing to plan is planning to fail. And in my MBA program, in addition to the venture capital bootcamp portion of the curriculum, I also teach you how to write an incredible business plan. And the way you know you should quit your full-time job and do your side hustle is if the amount of money, the revenue you made from your side hustle over the past 6 months is greater than your annual salary. That is the go, no-go decision. And we all know that if it's actually 3 or 4 months worth instead of 6 months worth, you're still going to quit, right? And the reason I say that you want to look at 6 months trailing is because, business is very seasonal. And if you start your company December 1st and you have an amazing December, that's not repeatable. You can't multiply that by 12 months because of seasonality. Yeah. Okay. All right. Aviation Mentor wrote, what's up? Good to see you. Adiposi, how are you? Wrote, hi, Chich. That was my nickname growing up. My dad and mom still call me Chich and Chichi. Adiposi is based in Nigeria, graduated from my platinum program a couple of years ago. I hope you're doing well. He's an architect, and he and his wife started a company, a handbag company in Nigeria called CEO, which is a cool name. It's actually the initials of his wife as well. It is a pleasure to see you again. I hope you're doing well, buddy. Yeah. And yes, we are going to build a school in Nigeria as well. Kemi Tade is going to help me with that as well. And I think you know Kemi as well. She's great. Okay. All right, next up we have Mateo, who's a new gold student of mine in my program. Started on May 6th. Great to see you, bud. Hope you're doing well. Okay. Next up, Low Key Beams wrote, I can't believe you do these live. What made you want to be a YouTuber? Yeah, I just wanted to help out. I found that, so when I worked full-time venture capital and during the evenings I would teach at Bay Area universities, I loved it. And I wasn't tired at night. I loved it because I was helping people in person. And then what I did was Tony Robbins convinced me in late 2015 to quit VC and start teaching. Great guy, by the way. And I met him. He's the real deal. Yeah. But what I missed, though, from teaching online is that I didn't really have interactions with people. I was just talking to a camera. And so I thought the best way to have interactions and add more value is to do this live. And that's why I do this. Yeah, it's fun. And again, I've never taken a sponsor. I never will. Okay. Next up, Magdalene wrote, good morning, Chris, everyone. My first time here. Welcome. I hope you join us again. Next up, Renveer wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm great, thanks. Renveer is from Mauritius. He's in my silver MBA program. He just published an article in the #1 finance journal in his country. I'm very happy for you. He's got the whitest teeth as well, and I always tease him about this. And I asked him, how do you keep your teeth so white? And he said he uses baking powder. So I started doing that, dude, 2 weeks ago, and I'm noticing a massive difference. So I drink my coffee out of a straw so I don't get brown teeth. And when you get older, your teeth get yellow, right? But I've been using baking powder as well, and it's working incredibly well. Yeah. And I'll show you the product, everybody, that I use. It's cheap, and it works really, really well. So let's go here, and I'll show you how it works. Baking. Hopefully it comes up here. Here it is here. Yeah, good. All right, so here's the product here. Take a screenshot if you want to of this. But all you do is and look how happy these people are using this product. It must work. All you do is you use your toothpaste as usual, and then you sprinkle just a little bit of stuff on top. And it works. I actually noticed a difference in the first 3 days. Yeah, it's unbelievable. You get a pack of 3 by ordering this product right here. Again, take a screen print here. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Huang wrote, hey, Chris, I'm taking your 30-day productivity course. I'm embarrassed to say that I'm such a procrastinator. I'm finding it hard to stick to the classes every day. Any advice? Yeah, no, I got you. So there's a really good book that it's called, I recommend reading, called How to Stop Procrastinating. I never finished it, though. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. So what I recommend doing is this. Set a daily schedule, okay? If you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. And in my MBA degree program, I have a daily scheduling system like this. And I think in that 30-day course you're taking, I have something like this, a more basic version. And if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, so stay busy. And so what you need to do is, and this is the one that's available to my MBA students, is you need to write your schedule for tomorrow today. So every night at 9 p.m., write your schedule. What are you going to do tomorrow and at what times? Then at the end of the day, before you create the next day's schedule, you're going to grade yourself. You're going to take 10% off for every meeting you missed, or 20% off if you didn't pray or whatever is important to people here. That's important to me, of course. 10% off if you didn't spend time with family, 10% off if you didn't exercise, etc. Rinse, lather, repeat. Do this as many days in a row as you can until you stop procrastinating. Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to vocalize your goals as well. Tell your family and friends and set a deadline date. You know, Tony Robbins once said that the reason 90% of people give up their New Year's resolutions by the 3rd week of January is because they don't set a deadline date. So if you want, what you can do right now, and everybody in this call, you can share with us what is your #1 goal and what's your deadline date. When are you going to achieve this goal? All right. And if I were a quota-carrying sales rep, I'd be fired so many times because I set my goals so high and I don't always achieve them, but I push the goalpost out. But as James Cameron said, a fellow Canadian, he said, if you set your goals really high and you don't succeed, you've succeeded above everyone else's expectations. Okay, next up, Renveer wrote, what are the top 5 things that separate successful Udemy instructors have and those who don't? Yeah, absolutely. And anybody can teach, by the way. And when one teaches, two learn. That's how I learn stuff, is by teaching it. Whatever your passion is, you can teach and make good money on the side from Udemy or other websites. Then, for example, my kids are big fans of this guy named Ninja. And Ninja is this guy that streams Fortnite. And he started his career by teaching, actually, on Udemy, how to use Twitch. So in terms of what to keep track of when you're teaching, what mistakes not to make, if you want to teach a business course like I've done, or a finance course like I've done, and Renveer, I know you're very good with finance as well, what I recommend doing is go to my finance and business courses on Udemy, for example, and just look at the 1-star reviews, okay, of which there's 8 million of them, and read all the negative reviews on my courses. then make a better version of my courses. And that's educational Darwinism. And the student ultimately wins. Okay, so step 1 of 5 is, I got to call 4 more here. Step 1 is look at the 1-star reviews. Step 2, you want to make sure that you have an exercise in the first 5 or so minutes of the course. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people will rate courses after only 5 or 10 minutes. In fact, only 13% of people actually finish online courses. It's true. I've seen the numbers. So have a portable skill that you impart with them in the first 5 minutes or so. Number 3, use 2 cameras if you can, right? If you have the budget for it. So that if you make a mistake, you don't have to repeat the whole lesson, just the last line. If you make a mistake, you know what I'm getting at. Yeah, you can cut to that camera. So that's 3. Now I owe you 2 more. Okay. Next up, I would say always be on camera, or a lot of the time, right? Or put yourself in the corner like this, etc. And the reason I say that is because people don't realize that your delivery is really, really important. And as Maya Angelou said, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And I want you to architect the brand of you. And it's a space race right now. It's a land grab. So please get online, create your persona, start teaching online, start YouTubing, etc. Before AI avatars take the market. And I know it's kind of a controversial thing to say, but I think it's only a matter of time until AI actors are created, or AI teachers, etc. So before that happens, maybe we have 5 or 10 years or so, maybe less. You got 5 or 10 years to establish the brand of you. And I recommend everybody write articles on LinkedIn as well. Okay, write about what you're passionate about or what you want to share about. And if you do that, then as what happened with you, Envir, the media will approach you and interview you, and you'll get free PR. Yeah. And let me know, Envir, how that article went from the largest financial services publications in Mauritius. It works. That was 4. Darn it, I need 1 more. All right, let me think. The 5th thing to make somebody successful when teaching. Oh, yeah. Make sure it doesn't feel like work. It's got to be something that you thoroughly enjoy teaching, thoroughly enjoy doing. Because if you don't, you won't be good at it. And I've got here a prop that I used. Here it is. So I enjoy teaching, and I enjoy creating with software. I think it's fun. Make sure that you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy teaching the topic you're going to teach, and if it feels like work, you won't make it. And I have to give you 1 more, 6th one. Don't give up. Right? As Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It took me until my 6th or 7th course on Udemy before one of them actually started making money. Don't give up. Your competition will. Same thing with LinkedIn articles or YouTube posts. Just be a pitbull on a pork chop. I mean, this is my 277th weekly webcast. If you go back and watch webcast number 1, you'll see the quality was terrible. I didn't care. And I didn't really have any questions, right? So I had to answer questions really, really slowly. Don't give up, because your competition will. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Just stay in the game. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, Mateo wrote, mushroom extract is so underrated. Yes, it's good. It's good. And I find that taking it, and again, talk to your doctors and stuff first before considering this, but I find that taking it really helps with my cognitive abilities so I can speak and present gooder. Yeah. And what I also do is, there's a couple other things that I take every day, and a lot of these are herbs as well. But one of them is called Bacopa. And Bacopa helps you with memory retention as well. Last thing I'll say on this topic is I also drink what's called bulletproof coffee. I've been doing this since late 2015. It's been a life changer for me. And what it does is it really helps me to, again, think and speak gooder and stuff. Gives me better cognitive ability so I can accomplish a lot more. And what bulletproof coffee is this. It's a special brand of coffee from a company called Bulletproof. And it's made in such a way so there's no preservatives in the coffee. And that's important because with regular coffee, there's a lot of preservatives, unless you buy it from a great place like Equator or Phil's. Phil's the best coffee shop ever. but there's preservatives, and the preservatives makes you crash, right? So you need another cup of coffee. What's also a bulletproof coffee is something called MCT oil that I put in. And it just helps you to think better and stuff. And lastly, the most important part of this is 1 scoop or tablespoon of organic butter. And I know it sounds out there, but I don't put any cream in this. And butter makes it taste like cream, that's it. But people have been doing this for hundreds of years. They've been putting a scoop of butter in their tea or coffee. And it gives you this incredible cerebral ability to think more clearly and accomplish a lot more. One of the problems with doing this, though, the butter in your coffee, is you lose your appetite, which might be okay for some people, right? So just remember that as well. Yeah, but it works incredibly well for me. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and whoever clicked the heart icon there, thank you. Okay, next up, Just Business wrote, hey, Chris, I'm going to study a bachelor's in data science in India. I want to get into hedge funds. Yeah. So what I recommend doing is setting up a ton of informational meetings, please. And I've said this so many times before, but whenever you see a job opening online, you literally have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. And the person that ultimately gets that job knows somebody at the company. So your network is your net worth, and relationships are more important than product knowledge. So just remember to network with tons of people that went to the same school you went to in India, that work in the finance industry or work in hedge funds. Yeah. And when you go to these informational meetings, you want to bring a couple of templates and handouts and 1-page write-ups if you want to. And I could show you real-time examples of that here if you want. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Nintendo. How are you? Okay. Moving on to Twitter email, who wrote, hi, Chris. I had a question on networking. Sure. After requesting a meeting or a coffee, what are some topics and questions to bring up during the meeting if my goal is to find a role in their field? Yeah. So the first 10 minutes or so of the meeting, what you want to do is you want to bond about something you have in common with them, right? And you want to go to their X profile or their Insta profile and see who they follow. If they follow baseball players, you can talk about baseball if you're passionate about baseball like I am. If they talk about cricket, for example, talk about if they have that in their LinkedIn, on their Twitter profile or Insta profile, you can talk about that. If they follow certain actors, movie stars, musicians, you can talk about that as well. You always want to bond in that first 10 minutes. Okay, and sports is also great boardroom talk. After you finish bonding with them, then you want to start asking questions about what is a day in the life like in the company you work at, etc. And then what you want to do is express your interest and come out and ask them, are you hiring? And if you don't ask, you don't get. And closed mouths don't get fed. Asking will receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. If you set up 50 informational meetings with people that work at Google, you're going to get a job at Google, I promise you. But you got to follow through and set up all those meetings. And if you think it's too much work, I ask you this with love in my heart. How badly do you want that job? Yeah. In the first couple of classes in my MBA degree program, I talk a lot about networking and how to network on steroids. Yeah. It's the most important skill set that exists. All right. All right. Next up, Shivansh wrote, hey, Chris. Hey, I was working for a company. But figured that corporate life is utterly boring and lonely. What to do is, how will the remainder of my life be? Yeah. So it sounds like you haven't found your passion. So what I would do is step 1, set up an amazing LinkedIn profile, which I teach my MBA program. Step 2, reach out to people in different industries that have something in common with you and set up informational meetings with them. And maybe you'll find that you're more passionate about their role. And before changing jobs, before you ask yourself how to do it, ask yourself why. Why do I want that job? So for me, for example, when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I thought, hey, maybe I'll be a lawyer, because I was a big fan of A Few Good Men, that great movie, and I read every John Grisham book and Scott Turow book as well. And I thought, hey, I want to be a lawyer. So I went down to Harvard Law School, checked out classes there. And then I set up informational meetings with lawyers. And after those meetings, I did not want to be a lawyer anymore. I remember after those meetings asking myself, are you a jerk before you go to law school, or is that something they teach you in law school? So set up tons of informational meetings and you'll find your way, I promise you. And the way that you found your passion or purpose in life is when you tell yourself, I'm not getting out of bed to go to work. I love doing what I'm doing. And for me, I'll be sleeping, I'll open my eyes, it's like 4 a.m. I'm like, yes, I'm going to get up early and do my passion. But when I work for other people or in companies where I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, I'd look at the clock, I'd be like 4 a.m., like, yes, I can sleep a couple more hours. Yeah. Another way to find your passion or purpose in life is to ask yourself this question. For the next 1 month, you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to go to school, and you're not allowed to travel. What are you going to do with your time? And whatever it is, that is your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être, and that is what career you should pursue no matter what anybody thinks. Yeah. Okay. Eugenia wrote, hey, Chris. Hey, good to see you. Okay. And then Magdalene wrote, I'm from Vancouver, Canada. Awesome. My mom actually was born there, and my grandfather too. God bless him. He went to UBC, which is called UB Ski, because it's right by Whistler. Sorry. Okay, moving on to Vinay, who wrote, hey, Chris, I love video games and reading and watching fantasy. I love games too. And by the way, next year, okay, in Q4 of next year, there's going to be at least 1 month where I'm not doing these weekly webcasts because GTA 6 is coming out. I'm not kidding. Yeah. The game I'm playing right now is I'm playing the remastered version of The Last of Us Part 2, which is a masterpiece. It's so good. Yeah. All right, and then you wrote, with respect to video games, obviously, I've gotten older. I have less time for video games. I find myself saying I don't have time for silly things. I end up feeling bad. Now, you do have time. What I recommend doing is schedule each day. If you schedule each day, you'll get a lot more done, I promise you. And schedule in me time at the end of the day to play your vids. Yeah. I play video games almost every single day for at least a couple minutes. Yeah. Okay. And I don't think it's bad for you. I think it's good for you because it's an escape. It's a hobby. Yeah. Okay, next up, Ala wrote, can you please extend your silver MBA? Would also this help with networking and starting a business? Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about my silver MBA program, just go to harounmba.com here and then click here on MBA FAQs. And then you can sign up if you want today. I've got a 30-day 100% money back guarantee on everything I sell. And there's also payment plans. Yeah, so $99 a month for silver now. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and in that program, I help you network on steroids. I teach you how to raise capital. I've humbly raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. I also teach you how to start a company as part of the Venture Capital Bootcamp in the 3rd semester. Yeah, everything's in there, including how to program, finance, accounting, everything in business you can think of. Okay, next up, Just Business wrote, I also like to start my own startup. Awesome. Working in venture capital. Give me your advice to get into venture capital hedge funds. Give me advice where I should learn how to get into venture capital. Yeah. So don't get into venture capital until you start a company. And the reason I say that is, yes, you might be able to network and get a job in venture capital, but you won't get promoted and you won't be able to sit on boards of lots of companies. Why? Because CEOs that want you on their boards, meaning your portfolio companies, want you to have experience. Yeah. And the way you know that you're doing a great job as a board member, I've been on lots of boards, is if you get the first call from the CEO whenever they have a problem. And a great board member should be a prosthetic extension of the management team and should add value. So for me, humbly, my value is always I can network and get lots of customers for the startups I was on the boards of when I worked at VC. In terms of hedge funds, it's easy. If you're passionate about venture capital and hedge funds, if you haven't started a company, then just go into the hedge fund industry if you want. But make sure you love that stuff. It can't just be about chasing money or all in badly. Yeah. but it's all about networking, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. Manas wrote, my mentor, rates are steady now. Uncle Powell suggested 1 cut, not 2. At least 1 cut may come in November. What do you think? Yeah. I think we're going to get at least 1 cut this year, maybe 2. Maybe 2. You look what's happening in Europe. They recently cut rates. I don't think the U.S. is that far behind. And inflation is getting a little bit better as well. And I think the government, as critical as I am of governments, I think the Federal Reserve has done a great job with a soft landing. Yeah. But I've never just invest in stocks because of what the Fed might do. I always think longer term. Okay, next up, my channel wrote, hey Chris, thank you for organizing such an insightful event and for building the courses. I've already completed 2 of them. Thank you. And then you wrote, I'm currently building a business acquisitions platform for the Baltic countries, primarily focusing on traditional businesses, but also including some local online businesses. Given your extensive experience in analyzing and screening public businesses, would it be possible to ask for your help in creating a simple yet insightful evaluation tool for small business? Can I reach out to you for more details about it? I'm ready. Yeah. If you want, absolutely. So to reach out to me, and this goes for anybody that's interested in purchasing my MBA program or consulting services, just go to my website, harounmba.com, and in the bottom right-hand corner, which I'm covering up in the corner, you just click on that blue button to schedule a call with me. Okay. All right. Next up, Renveer from Mauritius wrote, hey, Chris, I just got LinkedIn Premium. Excellent. But I'm not seeing that much benefits. Maybe I'm not using it correctly. Can you tell us some use cases? Yeah, absolutely. So the good thing about LinkedIn Premium is you can send more in-mails. Okay, so the way that in-mails work is, let's just say that you have 5 per month. If you send an in-mail to somebody and they don't respond, you only have 4 left. If they do respond, you still have 5 left. Yeah. So I would definitely always subscribe to LinkedIn Premium because your network is your net worth. And if you want a great book to read on networking, written by Reid Hoffman, the brilliant co-founder of LinkedIn, I think he's a partner now at Greylock, great venture capital firm. You can read his book called The Startup of You. And it will teach you how to network on steroids as well. Yeah. Another great thing about LinkedIn Premium is there's a setting so that people don't know you looked at their profiles. Yeah. And you also can get more analytics as well, which is helpful. Yeah. Okay. Manas wrote, Tesla approved a $56 billion salary for Elon. How fair is that, knowing Elon wasn't the founder of the company? And also, unused Tesla can be seen in Tesla warehouses from space. Yeah. And a lot of hedge funds will rent satellites to count cars in parking lots to track business. Yeah. Okay. In terms of compensation, I really believe in the free markets. I don't think it's unfair that somebody makes an extraordinary amount of money if they're making the world a better place, which he certainly is. What I don't think is fair, though, is that billionaires don't pay much in taxes. And Warren Buffett has publicly disclosed that his assistant pays more in taxes than he does, percent-wise. And his real tax rate was something like 0.1%, Buffett's, between 2014 and 2018. Google it, you'll see. Jeff Bezos, in 2007, when he was already a billionaire, not only did he not pay any taxes, but he got $4,000 back per child in tax credits when he filed his taxes. He has 4 kids. That's 16 grand. Now, the average, so the 400 wealthiest families in America only pay 20% tax. It's not fair. And so I really think, and look, I am a capitalist. I'm more of a libertarian these days. But I think there has to be a billionaire tax, like a wealth tax, so that even if you don't have realized gains, if you're worth a certain amount, like many billions of dollars, you should be taxed, especially if you work at banks. And I think banks should be overtaxed, and the money should be given to people that foreclosed in 08, 09, 010. Yeah. Not 010, just 10. Yeah. All right. right. Next up, Manas wrote, BYD, which is a Chinese electric vehicle company, is giving tough competition to EV markets. People like it's cheap and cool, and also Buffett and Munger have their stake in it. Buffett's been in that for years. Yeah. I don't feel comfortable. I've invested in Chinese companies before, and I didn't really feel comfortable with the accounting unless there's a dual listing in the United States. Yeah. And that's just a criticism of the accounting practice in China. Okay, I gotta be careful what I say here. Yeah. All right. Manas wrote, my mentor, as AI is progressing, do you think your studio and many other people's studios would become useless? Please don't get offended, because AI is progressing so quickly that now with virtual back. Yeah. So I think that the best entrepreneurs try to disrupt their own businesses. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'll explain how in a second. But if you look at Reed Hastings, the brilliant founder of Netflix, he disrupted his own business by getting rid of the DVD mail service and just streaming. And I'm looking at doing something similar. So I can't disclose the name of the company, but a very well-known company reached out to me. And we are doing a beta, I'm the guinea pig, on me teaching courses. But it's going to be my avatar. So I'm trying to disrupt what I'm doing now before the marketplace does. Yeah. But I am very bullish on AI. It is scary at the same time. As Warren Buffett said, once we open AI's Pandora's box, there's no going back. But I'm so bullish on AI that I think the average return for the S&P 500 for the next couple of decades is going to be 15 to 20%. There will be down years as well, of course. The reason I say 15 to 20% as opposed to the usual 10 to 15% average yearly increase in the S&P. The reason I say 15 to 20% is because a lot of companies are going to be using AI to cut costs materially. And that's going to go right to the bottom line. Yeah. But don't fear AI. Learn to embrace it. Yeah. And I'm sure many of you saw the Apple keynote earlier this week at the Worldwide Developer Conference and iOS 18. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's incredible. And I think that Apple's iOS 18 is going to put a lot of AI startups out of business. Yeah. Grammarly, others as well. Yeah, it's incredible. There's also eye tracking. I'm sure many of you have seen this in iOS 18. The beta comes out this fall. There's eye tracking so that it knows exactly where you're looking. And then if you blink, it'll click. Right. So, and I'll be turning that on for sure. And that probably came out of one of the 5,000 patents that Apple filed for their failed Vision Pro product. Okay. Next up, Googly wrote, Chris, I'm getting older every day. Yeah, the second you're born, you're slowly dying every day. Sorry. Chris, I'm getting older every day, and you make me want to spend more time on my dreams. Oh, I love it. My dream is to be big on social media so I can reach many people. I just don't know where to start. Yeah, start today. Go to my website, set up a call with me, and we'll talk about it in more detail. Yeah, the worst thing we can do is not take a risk and start the company we've been dreaming of starting our whole life. And if you don't do that, then something terrible happens, which is this. You become an old person and you work for somebody who's paying you this much money to make their dreams become a reality. Yeah. Don't fear failure. Okay, next up, Magdalene wrote, where'd you get the wide stand-up desk, please? Yeah. So there's a company called Fully that's got great desks, and the brand is called Jarvis. I think Herman Miller bought them recently. So let me go here, Fully Desk Jarvis. And you can fully customize it as well. Here it is here. Yeah, it was bought by Herman Miller. But they look like this here. You completely customize them, okay? And then you can even choose the wood, and if you want an arc in the side here, which I have as well. So fully Jarvis. Customized from scratch as well, as you can see here. Yeah, build your own desk. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to Mr. Vicky, who wrote, Chris, does trendline trading work? Mainly trendline breakouts. Yeah. So I would always say, be long-term focused always. Day trading doesn't work. And I know that might upset a lot of people, but I say it with love in my heart. And the reason day trading doesn't work is because every month has 20 weekdays, meaning 20 days for which the markets are open. And you can't make money every month because stocks go up and down in a short amount of time because of geopolitical issues or other positive or negative news events based on economic data points released by companies. Just be long-term focused. Focus first on fundamentals, second valuation, third technical analysis. So whenever you do investment research on a company you want to invest in, you have to look at fundamentals and valuation. And so this here is one of the many templates I provide my MBA degree program students. There's 101 steps or 100 steps here to analyzing a company. Right here, one of the last steps is technical analysis here. Always focus on qualitative and quantitative drivers first. Build out your financial statements, value the company using various valuation methodologies. And the last step you can look at is trend lines, for example, to see if a company is holding the 50 or 200-day moving average, et cetera. Yeah. Okay, next up, Just Business wrote, if a teenager wanted to build his own startup and wanted to work in startups to get experience, how to network with startups around the world online and start working with them remotely. Yeah. So step one, have a great LinkedIn profile. Step two, set up in-mails with people that have something in common with you. Once you get those Zoom meetings or Zoom calls or coffee chats, virtual coffee chats using LinkedIn in-mails, you bond a bit first, like I mentioned before. Then you ask if they're hiring. And it's hard for me to answer that within a couple of seconds here. But if you want, what you can do is take my MBA degree program, because in the first couple of hours of the program, I talk about networking on LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, I've got here Kevin, who wrote, Chris, Shahar introduced me to your live stream months ago, and I'm loving it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Ani chotze coffee achshav. Yeah. All right. Manas wrote, the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, correct about programming because coding has never been easy and cool. One prompt, you get 10,000 words. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So Jensen Huang, the brilliant founder and CEO of NVIDIA, in an interview a couple of weeks ago, what he said was he implied that studying computer science doesn't make sense anymore. And a lot of people graduating from universities now with a computer science degree are finding it hard to get work. And the reason Jensen said that is because AI is the quintessential, programming tool interface. So we're going to be using AI a lot more to generate code for us. And so he recommends studying liberal arts at universities. And Steve Jobs, God bless him, used to say that Apple is the intersection of technology and liberal arts. And if you study liberal arts, and I was completely against this when I was younger. When I was younger, I was like, you got to study practical stuff only. But if you study liberal arts, it helps you to think differently. Hence Apple's campaign, Think Different. And in the United States, unlike any other country, you usually don't declare your major in school until your second or third year. And Jensen says this is going to set American education system above others in the long run. Next up, what was your aha moment in the Bay Area? Like a fan moment, or you met somebody? Yeah. So for me, it was when I met Tony Robbins. Yeah. So we introduced Tony Robbins to one of our portfolio companies when I worked in venture capital to invest in. Yeah. And I had just an incredible moment with him. It was like lightning in a bottle. Yeah. And when I shook his hand wrapped around mine like 8 million times. He's a big guy. Yeah. So I'm 6 feet. He felt like he was 1,000,000 feet tall. Yeah, but he's the real deal. Yeah. And he had security guards as well. When he came, there's a guy always talking to his sleeve. I remember that. Yeah. Definitely Tony. But I've met pretty much everybody in tech here that's in a senior position as well. Okay. And then Phil. Hey, Phil. Phil was my student from Ohio who wrote the first book using my book template. The book was called Super Students. It was about chess. How prophetic is that? So Phil, who works at Rockwell, I think, wrote, how accurate does my first business plan financials need to be? Yeah. It's hard. It really is. I would focus mainly on revenue, okay, and understand the total addressable market. And a rookie mistake is to be so bullish on your company. You make revenue grow so much that it's larger than the total addressable market. So I would say focus mainly on revenue. And then in terms of expense items being a percent of revenue, just use comps, meaning similar companies. But the harsh reality is that venture capitalists, when they interview you to invest in your company, we always cut your numbers in half. And the reason is because venture capitalists know that entrepreneurs are way too optimistic, and that's okay. Because having a positive attitude will make you successful in the long run. Yeah. Okay, and then Phil wrote, how should I combat ageism in business or job hunting? Yeah. That's a tough one. Because the average age for somebody starting a company in the United States now is 52. So if you're feeling frustrated at work because of ageism and there's some kind of stupid glass ceiling, then channel that frustration into starting your own company on the side and let me help you. Yeah. But what some people do on LinkedIn is they don't list what year they graduated from university, but they list the university degree. Yeah. And you can omit stuff on your LinkedIn profile as well from earlier in your career. It's not being disingenuous or unethical. Just don't list it if you don't want it. But aggressive networking can certainly overcome ageism. Yeah. And then next up, Manas wrote, where do you AI and quantum computing? Yeah, let me read the question first. Yeah. Okay, something about AGI. Yeah, so artificial general intelligence means when computers are smarter than us. And people think it's coming within the next 2 years or so. I think it'll come in 5 or 10 years. And I hope that there's stop gaps or precautions put in place before that occurs. Because again, as Warren Buffett said, once we open up AI's Pandora's box, there's no going back. Yeah. And then Manas wrote, will OpenAI have the same fate, God forbid, as that of Netscape? Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think so. So what happened with Netscape was Netscape created a browser product. The company went public in 1995. Ticker was NSCP. And then Microsoft gave away Internet Explorer for free. And then antitrust, Janet Reno in 1999 wanted to break up Microsoft because of that. And ironically, Microsoft now owns the patents for Netscape because they bought AOL patents. I don't think that's going to happen with OpenAI because you've got the first or second largest company on the planet, Microsoft, by market cap, depending how Apple is doing today. Microsoft invested a ton of money, right? So, no, there's no way that OpenAI is going under. And even Apple licensed OpenAI's product as well, which is going to be part of iOS 18 coming out this fall. Yeah, so I don't think there's any way that would happen. Yeah, and a friend of mine, Sarah Fryer, who I worked with at Goldman years ago, she just became the CFO there. Yeah, and she's great. Okay. All right, next up, Random TK wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great, thanks. Hope you're doing fantastic. Can you kindly explain equity risk premium? Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. So when you create, one way to value a company is using something called discounted cash flow. And what that means is you get the amount of cash the company makes every year, and you discount it into today's terms. What do you discount it at? Well, there's a special rate you use called the weighted average cost of capital, which includes equity and the cost of debt. With the cost of equity, basically what you do is you multiply whatever you think the federal funds rate is, right? Take the 2-month or 10-year, depending on how you want to value a company. And then you're going to multiply that times the beta, okay? Now, beta is a measure of volatility of a company. So the beta of the S&P 500 is 1. Just accept that. If a company has a beta of 2, like Tesla, for example, that means it's twice as volatile as the S&P 500. And that will get embedded in the equity risk premium when you're calculating the weighted average cost of capital. And I can show you in Excel if you want me to. So if a company has a beta of 2, that means if the S&P 500 goes up 1%, that company will go up 2%. And vice versa. If the S&P is down 1%, that company will be down 2%. And high beta stocks usually do well in bull markets. Now, if you want to preserve capital, you can invest in a company that's not going to go up as much, but it's got a lower beta, meaning a beta of less than 1. For example, Campbell's Soup, CPB is the ticker. It's got a dividend yield and a beta of under 1 as well. That won't go down as much in a bad market. And the math for it, and I'll show you really quickly here. For those of you in my MBA degree program, just go to EMS4-2. That's Economics Management and Strategy, Semester 4, Class 2. Okay, so this is where you calculate it right here. Okay, so there's something called the weighted average cost of capital. So you look at the cost of equity and the cost of debt. Okay, and then everything is calculated for you right here. You take the risk-free rate plus the beta times stock market return minus the risk-free rate. But the beta is going to be the biggest driver in terms of why a stock has a very high cost of equity. Okay. And then Phil wrote, do you have a favorite chat bot? Yeah, I use one on my website, actually. Let me see if I can show you this. So yeah, and all these chatbots, the best ones at least, are based on ChatGPT. Let's see. So if you go to learn.harounventures.com, in the bottom left-hand corner, I use something here called Chatbase. Okay, and you can ask any question you want. And I've got like 10 million characters of closed captions in here as well. But let me show you how I set this up here, if you're curious. Okay, so this here is the chatbot I use from chatbase.co. It's $20 a month, right? And in terms of sources, the way I set it up was I used, these here are all text files, meaning they're closed caption files right here. And then I also added a bunch of questions here people could ask and website links here. It's that simple. Yeah. It's really, really easy to set up. And then in terms of connecting, all you do is you copy this code and paste it in your website. It's just JavaScript here. Yeah. That's what I use. It's not perfect. Okay. And then Manas wrote, will you watch the Cricket World Cup in New York live? It's still new in America, but hype is building up slowly. Yeah, so the biggest upset, they say, in sports history was when the United States beat Pakistan. Yeah, so that's why a lot of people are starting to focus on it. Yeah, one data point does make a trend, though. Yeah. All right. Next up, Ya wrote, hey, Ya, how are you? Ya graduated from my gold MBA program not that long ago. Great to see you. Ya wrote, what are your thoughts about copyright sales? From your experience, does it help sales? Meaning copy and writing. Do people actually read it at all? Yeah. Yeah. I would say great copywriting is short. Less is more. Okay. And same thing with articles. Never have more than 600 words in any article, and never have more than 3 sentences per paragraph. Now, the most important thing about copyright sales, email marketing, etc., is the subject line. So you can take the content of your message and paste it in a ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to provide you with 10 examples of clickable email titles. Be careful with certain words, though, in email titles because spam filters pick them up, like the word sale or money back guarantee and stuff. And then y'all wrote, I bought a stand-up desk, something like this here. I bought a stand-up desk and treadmill due to your recommendation, and it's a great investment, isn't it? It's amazing. Yeah, it's the return is insane. You will literally be 10 times more productive every day, and your heart will thank you as well. Yeah. All right, moving on to Abhishek. How are you? It's been a while. Who wrote here, hey, Chris, the way you thought about modeling and valuation were learner-friendly, and I'm currently serving in the Indian Army, and in free time, I learn from your courses. Thank you. Thank you. And I love to teach with props as well. And what I've been doing is on my vlogs, which I publish almost every Friday, I use tons of vlogs as well, tons of props to explain Billions and other television programs that deal with finance. Yeah, thank you. And I hope the weather is better for you there, man. I think it was Manas mentioned that in Delhi it was 52 degrees Celsius a couple weeks ago, which is like 120 Fahrenheit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, next question is, an engineer who earns $200,000 or more in America earns, but same guy in India gets 50 to 60. And then you wrote, sounds fair because America is expensive, but isn't it too difficult? Yeah. Yeah. I personally don't have any employees. I outsource everything. Okay. And a great website to use for outsourcing, and this is going to be a game changer for many people watching, is you go to onlinejobs.ph. And you can get graphic designers, social media marketing people, content writer, which y'all asked about a minute ago, in terms of how much you pay, $5 per hour, $4.55 per hour. It's unbelievable. People have bachelor's degrees here. They've been vetted as well. And what some people do actually is they hire 3 or 4 people for the same role. And they tell them all at first, we're only going to keep one person, and I keep one. But this is a bargain. It's unbelievable. Yeah. How's that for fighting inflation? Onlinejobs.ph. Check it out. Next up, Manas wrote, the risk-taking capacity of American venture capitalists and incubators are too much and high. It's a pleasure to see that. Why is that? Yeah. So okay. So your question is risk taking in the United States. So on the West Coast here in the United States, in California, failure is not shameful. So people take a lot of risks. On the East Coast, it's a bit more shameful. But if you're successful later in life after you've failed, then it's cool. Hey man, you tried and you're successful. There are some countries, which I won't name, where failure is so shameful that if you fail and later in life you're very successful, all they remember is the failure. So I would say that the culture on the West Coast here in the United States is failure is cool. Hence people take a lot of risks. Yeah. Okay. Just Business wrote, thanks for the advice. You're most welcome. Thanks for being here. If anybody wanted to reach out to you because they can't wait to attend your office hours every time because of your valuable knowledge, how do you get in touch with you? Yeah, if you want to become a customer, you can always go to my website, harounmba.com, and set up a call with me by clicking on that blue as a button in the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah. Next question is, how do you save taxes in the San Francisco Bay Area because you're a high net worth guy? So it doesn't matter how much money people make. I always recommend getting an accountant to do your taxes. Okay. And doing your own taxes is deadly. It's like doing surgery on yourself. It's a weird thing to say, I know. But the reason the accounting designation exists is because the tax code changes all the time. So I recommend that everybody, regardless of how much money you make, get an accountant. And there's no Yelp for accountants, right? It's kind of a balkanized type, profession. The way to find a good accountant is to ask your successful, aunts, uncles, friends, coworkers, whatever, who do they use? And they'll introduce you gladly. And they'll be glad to do it because they're giving their accountant more business. And your accountant will basically, a good one will make sure you're not, breaking the law, and will also get you the right write-offs. And there's so many write-offs that so many people on this call can get, but you don't realize you can get it. And the only way you realize you can get it is by hiring a professional, hire an accountant. Now, if you run your own business like I do, what I recommend doing is get an accountant to do your personal taxes and your business taxes as well. And the way it works with me is I have 2 credit cards, business, personal. If I'm positive it's a business expense, I use this. If I'm not sure, I use this, the personal one. And at the end of the year, my account will go online, get all my stuff, all my statements, and I don't keep any receipts because everything's electronic now. And what they'll do is they'll file my personal and business taxes. Yeah. But make sure that you all max out your retirement savings program as well. And I can talk about the tax benefits of that if you want me to. And if all you did was you saved $20,000 a year for 20 years and you put it in the S&P 500, you would have over $1 million in 20 years. If your spouse did it as well, you got over $2 million. If you take advantage of educational savings accounts for your kids as well, you'll have $700,000 per child by the time they're 18. Yeah. But what you have to do is think like Warren Buffett, and you want to spend what is left after saving instead of saving what is left after spending. And so I want as much money as possible, and we can't do it all the time. Times are tough, but I want as much money as possible taken out of your weekly paycheck and put into your investments. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. All right, next up, PokePackFire, PPF, wrote, is AI going to take our jobs? I think it's going to definitely help us a lot to be more productive, but I certainly think it's going to take a lot of jobs. Like, I don't think that big companies are going to need to have as many people working in accounting. But I don't think it's going to take away sales jobs or trust for that matter. Yeah. But I think, there's certain fields like radiology where AI is going to completely replace it. Yeah. And my dad is a radiologist, so is my brother. Radiologist means, for those not familiar with it, fixing radios. Yeah. And then next up, a big problem that comes up is AI startups are popping up, but one big update from Apple and OpenAI will make them bankrupt. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Like if all you did was you look to invest in AI startups before looking to invest in AI startups, please watch the entire WWDC Worldwide Developer Conference Apple keynote from this week. Yeah. And for the best companies to use personally and maybe invest in actually, the best source is to look at Sequoia's website. So Sequoia is the #1 venture capital firm on the planet. Their website is sequoiacap.com. And then on their website here, sequoiacap.com, you click here on Generative AI's Act 2. I'm sure Act 3 is coming out soon. And you scroll down here, and there's going to be this wonderful chart. Okay, and this is version 3 now of the Generative AI Market App. And these are all of the market leaders for every single subsector of the economy, right here, enterprise, verticals here, healthcare, legal, etc. And if you're a super techie, you can scroll down and look at the Generative AI infrastructure stack. Yeah. Next question is, if you were 22 again, which you are now, thank you, what AI startup or project would you work on or focus, assuming it's for 5 years? Yeah. That's tough. I would probably OpenAI. It's not a startup anymore, obviously, but I'd probably try to work there. Yeah. Or work at a big company like an Apple or Google, in their AI department. Yeah. In R&D. Yeah. But I'd be definitely doing R&D if possible, because once you understand how to make the product, you can create your own company. In fact, for anybody out there that's younger and you're confused what you should do with your career, I want you to consider working in what's called an origination job. And what that means is making the product. And I'll give you 3 examples. example number one is technology, be a developer if you want. Example number two is in finance, do investment banking because you're creating the IPO product. And example number three is consulting, firms like McKinsey, where you're creating the corporate strategy. Now, because these three items here, you're creating the product, you're originating it. If you hate originating the product, that's okay, because if you thoroughly understand how to create the product, you can move on to sell the product, do operations for the product, manage people on the product, etc. Yeah, origination role. And then Just Business wrote, are there any requirements to get into your MBA program? No, absolutely not. No. And if you want to know my thought process when it comes to education and the future of education, watch my TEDx talk. Just go to TEDx website or whatever, do a search for it. I don't think it's fair that traditional business schools make you have an undergraduate degree. A lot of these people that get in, their parents might have gone to a great undergrad school, which is why they got in there. It's not fair. It's not fair to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and that's why you get into an MBA school. Yeah. So I'm very much against accreditation. I think the system is rigged to those that already have money, etc. And when I went to Columbia for my MBA, almost everybody in my class, more than 50%, had a relative that went to Columbia as well. Yeah, so it's just not fair. Okay. All right, next up, Holy Moly wrote, hey, Chris, I just want to drop by and say hi from Indonesia. Great to see you. I'm at 15% completion of your Silver MBA program so far. I'm having fun learning. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And what you can do if you want also, Holy Moly, you can join me in about 40 minutes. Go to the very first lecture in your Silver MBA degree program, because every week in that first lecture, I publish a link for you to join a Zoom call with me. It's a small group setting. Yeah, you have access to that for life. Yeah. And then you wrote, it's 11 p.m. here, almost midnight here. Oh, might be tough then for you. Yeah, to join. But I will put you to sleep if that's an issue. Yeah. Next up, the EU Parliament elections are happening now. France has dissolved the assembly, yeah, and called for elections in 2024. It's going to be a turbulent, yeah. I'm not up to date in that. Sorry. Next up, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, the big boys in AI, but a small lab, OpenAI, discovered Pandora's box of AI. Why are small groups of people more efficient than big MNCs, meaning multinational corporations? Because there's less bureaucracy. Two girls or two guys in a garage can come up with an idea and run circles around the competition. So big companies, the problem with big companies when it comes to innovation is if you're a senior executive at a big company, you're focused on climbing the corporate ladder. If you take a risk and you start a new product and you fail, you're no longer climbing that corporate ladder, you're done. And if you're successful, maybe you get a slight increase in salary, right? It's not going to move the needle too much. So there's a disincentive to want to innovate in big companies because you want to maintain the status quo. And the exception to that rule is if the founder runs the company still. When a founder leaves a company and is no longer engaged at all, I run for the exit. And if you want to learn more about that, I wrote an article. So there's a website called VentureBeat, which is the best source for venture capital ideas, etc. But if you just do a search on VentureBeat me, there's an article I wrote here in 2014 when I worked in venture capital called "When a company founder resigns, investors should head for the exits too." And you can read this if you want. Yeah. And then thank you, Magdalena Manas, for those comments. Okay. All right. Next up, Web Nomad wrote, do you think that when AI can see everything on your desktop, it will have the ability to trade stocks autonomously? Yeah. The only company that's really been able to figure that out is Renaissance Technologies. And God bless Jim Simmons, the brilliant founder. He passed away recently. So Jim Simmons was a mathematician. He worked at the NSA. And then he started Renaissance Technologies, which is a hedge fund that has had 60% average gross adjusted returns on average since 1980s. He's the only one that's been able to figure it out. Yeah. But I'm sure other firms will emerge that will kind of figure out how to profit from using AI algorithms. But then at that point, it's going to become crowded because everybody will be using the exact same LLM or algorithm. Yeah. I still think you got to think long term. Yeah. I don't think AI is going to be able to day trade and make you a fortune. At least not yet. Yeah. Okay. And Holy Moly wrote, what is your take on operating systems using AI, such as Microsoft Copilot? It captures screenshots. Yeah, I don't like that. Every 5 seconds and catalogs it. Is that privacy threat? Are you planning to adopt this technology? Yeah, I don't use Windows unless I have to, and I run Parallels on my Mac OS here. But no, that is scary what Microsoft is doing. Yeah, and what's even worse, though, is the change in the end user licensing agreement for Adobe. Anybody that uses Adobe products, you're going to see that there's an update, and you have to click a blue button that says, I agree, or you can't use their products, which basically says they can review and look at everything you're doing. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons is because we store a lot of stuff in the cloud. Yeah. Okay. And then Magdalene wrote, I love your props and visuals too, Chris. Thank you. I just started learning your course on the complete option trading course. Thank you. Thank you. And if you meet me in real life, I'm a very tiny man, okay, with awful dad humor. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Devon wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great. Good to see you. The question is, I wanted to know how governments value a new currency when they change their old one to new paper notes, like what happened with Bretton Woods, please. Yeah. It's all about supply and demand. So what happened, the most recent example would be Venezuela, where their currency was seeing ridiculous inflation. And oddly enough, their currency was called the fuerte, which means strong or strength in Spanish. And they actually had to get rid of it, and they launched a new one. And with the new currency, they were more cognizant of the supply. Yeah. But it's about time that paper-based or fiat currency has competition with cryptos. I think that's a healthy thing longer term. Competition is a good thing for the consumer. Yeah. But the United States, so Richard Nixon in 1972, when I was born, Richard Nixon, I'm not a criminal, that guy. He took the United States dollar off the gold standard. And back then, whenever you bought US dollars, it was based on gold. Now it's just based on the full faith and credit of the United States, which means it's a loser investment currency because the government keeps printing more. There's 40% more fiat currency out there, meaning US dollars, since COVID started. So what do? Well, you don't. Cash is trash. You avoid cash. And you diversify into stocks, bonds, commodities, etc. And gold is a great investment. And the reason I say gold is a great investment is because, in the Middle East, they're starting to not price oil in US dollars, right? And so if the US dollar is not going to be the world's reserve currency in the very long run, what else do you buy to store your value? Gold. Everybody should have gold in their portfolio. Ticker GLD is how I invest. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Good to see you. You wrote SWPPX or VU, and then you wrote because lower expense ratio. Let's take a look together. Okay. So for those of you not familiar with ETFs, they're better investments than mutual funds because they outperform and the fees are lower. Mutual funds are an absolute ripoff. So my go-to ETF, when I'm not sure where to put my money, is I always buy this. Do your research first, always, please. So this here is the Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund, which I think is going to be up on average 15 to 20% every year for the next couple of decades because of AI. There'll be down years too. So right here we see the expense ratio is 0.03. That means for every, and you got to double check this data by going to the prospectus, meaning the investment offering memorandum. But what this means is you only pay 3 pennies for every $100 you invest each year, which is next to nothing. Dividend yield here is 1.32. And then you wrote the other ticker you want me to compare it to is SWPPX. Schwab. Talked to Chuck. I met Charles Schwab actually at a small event in Atherton. I met him and his wife when there's 20 of us, and Reed Hastings was giving a presentation on the future of education. All right. Yeah, I don't see the expense ratio here. So, here it is here. Yeah, you're right. It is cheaper. So this might be a better investment. The yield is 1.29, which is close to the other yield. Yeah, this looks like it might be a better investment. So what I would do is let me first of all see liquidity. Hold on one second. So I would go directly to the prospectus for this ETF as well as the VU. And what I would do is I would get the expense ratio from the prospectus to make sure this is correct. Yeah. I would also look at liquidity as well, meaning the average number of shares this trades daily. Yeah. And you never want to buy more than 10% of the average daily trading volume, right? So obviously this thing here, the VU trades like water, it's not an issue. But remember that illiquid stocks own you in a down market rather than vice versa. Yeah, and there's more questions about BRIC versus US dollar and valuation of currencies. Yeah. So I would say that the very last company that will ever go bankrupt, everything is relative in life, the very last company, so to speak, that will ever go bankrupt is the US government. It is what it is. Yeah. So I would rather own US dollars than currency from BRIC economies, meaning Brazil, Russia, India, China. And I think that there's ever going to be another world reserve currency other than the US dollar, I would think it's going to be the Indian rupee one day. Yeah. But I wouldn't bet against the US. Okay. Okay, and then Ray wrote, what do you think about the following distribution of net worth? 40% real estate, 10% land, 20% VU, 5% crypto, 25% bonds. Yeah, I'd like to see some single stocks in there as well. So what I would say is this, outside of your house, your residence, when it comes to your portfolio, I probably wouldn't have real estate investments in your portfolio initially unless you have a ton of capital. What I would do is this. I would not put more than 5% of your liquid net worth in any one stock. Yeah. And if you're going to invest in cryptos, make it 5% max of your liquid net worth as follows. I don't want any one crypto to be more than 0.5% because most cryptocurrencies are an absolute scam. Yeah. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything wrong with having 20% of your portfolio in ETFs like the VU, as long as you do your research. Yeah. And the VU can be a good placeholder until you find companies to invest in. Yeah. In terms of bonds, it all depends on what your appetite for risk is. 25% bonds, that could mean anything because there's junk bonds with high yields, which are very risky. And there's municipal bonds where you can get, a tax break. You don't pay taxes on most munis. Or you can have corporate bonds. I need to know more about bonds there. So an old school train of thought is this from a private wealth management perspective. You take 100 minus your age. And whatever number that is your risk appetite. So for example, let's say you're 90 years old. 100 minus 90 is 10. That means 90% of your investment should be in very low risk stuff like US Treasuries or AAA rated bonds, etc. And 10% can be in riskier stocks, meaning stocks with higher betas, like growth stocks, tech stocks, for example. Yeah. If you're 20 years old, 100 minus 20 is 80. 20% of your portfolio can be in lower risk bonds, for example. And then 80% can be in higher risk stocks. Yeah, it's all relative. And the reason why I say that's old school is because, a lot of people are living well into their hundreds now. Yeah. How much money do I need to save if I need $100,000 per year? My investments will bring me 10% return, and the average annual inflation will be 4%. What is the formula? Yeah. So I would go into Excel and use the future value of money formula, FV. Yeah. Okay. And then in Excel, when you type equals FV, what will open in brackets are a bunch of parameters you can put in, including the number of years, the average payment, meaning how much money you're going to get back, etc. Yeah. And if you're confused about how to create that formula, what I recommend you also do is go to ChatGPT and type your question exactly there and say, provide me with the formula in Excel to calculate this, and it will give it to you. That's why Jensen Huang is saying, don't study computer science anymore. Okay, next up, Ray wrote, how do you check the RSI? Can you make an alert? What alerts do you set for yourself? Yeah, I don't use any technical analysis alerts. I do have alerts on certain stocks and certain topics, such as my name, for example, just to catch anybody that's copying my courses. And you can do that by going to alerts.google.com. Yeah. Now, in terms of checking the RSI, I'll go there with you. If the RSI is 20 or 30, it's oversold, which means you might see mean reversion and dead cat bounce. And if it's 80, 70 or 80, vice versa. So I'll show you here with, I don't know, Tesla, I guess. And again, this is the last thing you should look at, okay? What I want you to do is really focus on fundamentals and valuation first. So let me go here to the chat. That's how they say in Boston, chat. And then I can go here to indicators and add the RSI. Okay, cool. All right. So, and it doesn't always work, right? And let's actually look at 1 year RSI. Okay. So if the RSI touches 80 or 70 or 80, people might think it's overbought and might go short or sell the stock. If it touches down here at 20 or so, people might want to go long. And it doesn't always work. But anyway, I would look first at fundamentals, second at valuation. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Ray wrote, can you give an example with a stop loss strategy for a portfolio? Is this just an order for all stocks to be sold? Yeah. Yeah. So whenever you look at stocks, you want the risk reward to be positively skewed if you're long. And what that means is this: the upside to your target price is much bigger than the downside to your stop loss price. So let's say a stock is $11 right now, and you do a ton of research and you value the company at $20, right? So stock's at 10, let's say, and your target price is 20. That's 100% upside. But there's good technical support at $8, right? And that could be the 50-day or 200-day moving average. So the risk reward is positively skewed as follows. Stock's at 10 now. Your reward is $20, $10 upside. Your downside is $2. So you got 80% positively skewed risk reward. Yeah. And a stop loss, people use stop losses mainly for really, really risky volatile stocks. And they also do it mainly for shorts, because shorts can go up an infinite amount, which happened in January 2021 when GameStop went up 29.4 times. Yeah. Carolyn, how are you? Carolyn's in my silver MBA program from France originally, now lives in Ontario and Nova Scotia in her rental property that she bought. Good morning, Chris. Thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge. You're most welcome, and God bless you. Yeah. And then Manas wrote, yeah, Saudi is not going to renew petrodollar contract anymore. What are your thoughts? Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I think what this is going to mean is the price of gold is going to go up a lot, because some people might view the US dollar as not being the reserve currency in the long run. But I think that's happening because of bullying from Russia. Yeah. And to a lesser extent, China. Yeah. Russia obviously has a lot of influence when it comes to the price of oil. All right. Carolyn wrote, I'm buying an iPad today. Costco has them on special. Any recommendations, keyboard, etc.? Yeah. So my new iPad arrives. I'm getting the nano texture screen. It arrives on June 17th. I can't wait for it. The nano screen's a bit more expensive. I would only get the nano screen if you're in a studio like mine, right? Because there's reflections on the glass. You can't see it here, but it drives me crazy with all my studio lights here. But I would say, if budget's not a concern, I would get the iPad Pro, the biggest one. Buy the keyboard from Apple directly. It's more expensive, but it works perfectly well. And if you buy it from Belkin, it can easily break. Yeah. But you might want to, what you can do is this, go to the Apple store instead of Costco and tell them, can I get the educational savings price, please? And then tell them that you're a student in my program and show them my website. It might work. It usually does if you ask. And you'll get like 5% off. Yeah. Okay. Next question is QQQ or QQQM. Yeah. So the Qs is the way to invest in the technology stocks in the NASDAQ market, as opposed to the biotechs. So let me go there. Let me go there with you. Let's go to finance.yahoo.com. QQQ. The Qs. Yeah. So this here is tech stocks. So let me look here. The expense ratio is 20. It's pretty high, actually. So that means you're paying 20 pennies in fees for every $100 you invest. It is plenty liquid. Remember before I said never invest more than 10% of the average daily trading volume. And then let me take a look here, and let me go to holdings to make sure it's the same here. Hold on a second. Yeah, these are all the tech companies in the NASDAQ. Yeah. All right, and let me enter the other one you mentioned, QQQM. Yeah, this actually has, it's less liquid, but it's liquid enough for most of us, obviously. The expense ratio is lower. Huh, interesting. Let's go to the holdings. Huh. This might be the one to use, but never trust this data perfectly. What I want you to do is this. I want you to go directly to the investment offering memorandum, okay, the prospectus, and read to see which one actually has a low expense ratio, because this can be off a little bit. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, JK, follow-up question, wrote Berkshire Hathaway A or B? Yeah. So it's the same stock. Basically, one has a lower pricing point for retail investors, but it's the same thing. And big hedge funds have arbitrage departments or event-driven departments that will try to make sure that they always trade in parallel. But they have the same market cap. Let me show you. Okay, let's go to Berkshire A and B. So let's do A first. Okay, so Berkshire A, if you want to buy it, $608,000 per share. The market cap is $872 billion. Okay, and now let's look at Berkshire B. $400. Okay, and the same market cap. So it's the same thing. Hold on one second. I've got somebody in my office. Yeah, I'm doing my webcast. What's going on? You got what? I what? iOS 18. Oh, you did? The beta? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Sorry, that was my son Dylan. He just said, Dad, I just got iOS 18. I guess he downloaded the beta. I'm going to do that later today as well. So cool. Yeah. All right. And Dylan is this guy here. And the curtains open automatically when I touch that. That's new. Let me close it there. I'm a nerd, okay? But I'm a lovable nerd, I think. Okay. All right. Next up, hey, Mohammed. How are you, man? Wrote, hey, Chris, we're trying to raise some money, and we're planning to raise from high net worth investors. How do you find high net worth investors? Are there any platforms or databases? My company's headquarters is in California. Yeah. I think you graduated from my MBA degree program. What I would do is I go rewatch the personal growth lessons in the first semester. So PG 1-1 through PG 1-9. That's personal growth semester 1, class 1 through personal growth semester 1, class 9. Then what I would do is I would go and watch E3-1 through E3-4. That's entrepreneurship semester 3, class 1 through entrepreneurship semester 3, class 4. Because there I teach you, how to raise capital and write the business plan as well. Yeah. Don't ever pay to get access to a spreadsheet or a database of high net worth investors. It's a scam. It doesn't work. And the best way to meet with high net worth investors is to find people who have something in common with you, and then just set up informational meetings. Yeah. And I think you're a graduate of the Platinum program. I think, yeah. So what you can do is I've got office hours later today. You can join those office hours over Zoom. And I can give you a lot more advice. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Magdalene wrote, what is your take on Coke, ticker KO? Yeah. I have a prop for everything. Yeah. So decent dividend yield around 2%. Valuation's not that egregious. Warren Buffett bought it back in the late 1980s. He hasn't sold a single share since. It's somewhat recession proof. I don't think you're going to get high growth out of it. I think it probably performs in line with the S&P 500 in the long run. Beta is not that high. It's close to 1. Yeah. Now a lot of people think that Coke has too much exposure to their core beverage, Coca Cola, sugar water, which I think that my grandkids are going to say, I can't believe you guys drank that stuff. That's like smoking. But it's not that high. It's about 25 or 26% of revenue comes from their sugar water product. They've certainly diversified into many other products as well, including Dasani water and others. I'd say it's a low risk investment. It'll probably perform more or less in line with the S&P in the long run. Yeah. To be honest, I'd rather just buy the VU. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Nintendo, how are you? Okay, and I'm going to wrap this up in a second. And if I don't answer all questions, if you have more questions, just join me next week, or just you can sign up for one of my MBA programs. Go to harounmba.com. Russell wrote here, new person. Russell wrote, hey, Chris, I'm a student of Mark Besa. Oh, awesome. Dr. Mark Vincent Besa. Yeah. Mark was actually in my Platinum MBA program back in 2019. He's from the Philippines, and I remember all of his textbooks were written by Dr. Fauci, he showed me. And then what he did was he leveraged what I taught him in the MBA program to network like crazy and to be a social media influencer. And he was offered a job during my MBA program to work, I think, for the United Nations in Somalia. He turned it down. But he was able to network and find a job in Birmingham. Yeah, and I'll show you guys his profile, Dr. Mark. He's got a great profile based on what he learned in the MBA program. So let's go here to LinkedIn, and then I'll read your question, I promise you. Okay, let's go Mark Besa. Here he is, Mark Vincent Besa, MD, and you're one of his students. Yeah, that's right. He moved to Birmingham. Great guy. Yeah. But he does a great job. Oh, wow, look at that. When he first started my MBA, hardly any followers. Good for him, man. He's being very vocal here. I love it. Yeah, he was in the Philippines. Okay, so, and he's okay, I got it. So he's your teacher now as well. Oh, give him a big hug for me, too. Tell him I say hi. Thank you. So you wrote here, I'm a student of Mark Besa. I recently opened my startup for virtual assistants for medical and non-medical practice. I'd like to get insights from you to get good leads. Thank you. Yeah. Tell you what, Russell, go to my website, harounmba.com. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's a blue button. Click on that and set up a meeting with me. Yeah. Pleasure to meet you. Okay. And this is the last question I can answer is, hey, Chris, how does block trading work? And what are your thoughts on it? Yeah. So block trading basically means a very large number of shares that's being traded. And usually what happens is, it's a big firm like Fidelity, for example, that wants to get out of a big position. And so what Fidelity will do, and that's called the buy side, they'll call the sell side, they'll call Goldman Sachs trading floor, and they'll say, we have a large block of shares we'd like you to sell. And the Goldman Sachs person will say, well, how many shares? Oh, wow, 1 million shares of Coca Cola. Okay, we can take care of that for you. And so what will happen is when the market closes that day at 4 p.m. New York time, what will happen is on the Goldman Sachs trading floor, what will come over the top, meaning over the loudspeaker, the tourists on everyone's desk will be, we're doing one of the traders will say this: we're doing a block trade for a plain vanilla fund, meaning Fidelity. They can't say Fidelity. We're doing a block trade, and we're gonna sell 1 million shares of Coca Cola, ticker KO, at a 3% discount to the closing price. And then what will happen is all the salespeople on that trading floor will call all their customers and say, are you interested in buying 1 million shares of Coca Cola at a 3% discount? And then what they'll do is they'll build the book, they'll put it together, and so say 10 funds will buy $100,000 shares each, and that big block will then be sold from Fidelity through Goldman to a bunch of other buy-side firms. That's how it works. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's webcast. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I will see you next week for week 278. If you get a chance, please check out my courses. Sign up for my silver MBA program if you want to. You can go to learn.harounventures.com to sign up. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee with every single product. God bless you all, and I'll see you next week and every week. I'm going to now go and talk to my son, Dylan, and check out iOS 18. Okay. Let me find the end screen here. Here we go. See you guys next week. Thanks.